It's the morning drive.
Good morning, and welcome to the Morning Drive. I'm your host, Brooks Fiesinger of brooksfiesinger.com and MillionaireWho.com, where we help you stabilize your wallet, secure your future, and succeed in entrepreneurship finance. I'm here today in my Ferrari 360. I did get it back, so I know a few people have mentioned, why haven't you been recording in the Ferrari? And this is episode 30, and episode 30 is a big deal because this is when we're switching from the weeklies to the monthly updates, and then when we get to 50, we'll switch back. So the reason we're going to the monthly is because we're now actually, we've got this good backlog of educational materials, and we're actually going to start doing some deep dives, and we're going to get a lot deeper into specific stuff that you want to learn about and specific topics instead of kind of these things where this is great, but we can only kind of cover a little bit in 30 minutes. We're going to get a little deeper through an entire month, so that'll be exciting coming soon. But in the meantime, once again, this is the last monthly, or weekly. Then we're going to switch to monthly, and this is episode 30. So we'll be back to weekly. We're playing around 50. Episode 50 is when we'll be back to weekly. So once again, this is episode 30, and we're talking about retiring early, right? Early retirement seems to be a really hot topic today, and a lot of people are saying, hey, I want to retire early. They're reading articles about people retiring at 25, 35. Retiring early is becoming a really, really popular topic to discuss, and something that people seem kind of excited about. And we're going to talk about the idea of retiring early, and I'm going to tell you, don't retire early. Retire right now. Right? It's not about retiring in 10 years. Retire now. And I want you to think about, retiring now. It's realistic. You can retire right now. I'm retired. You can be retired. And the kicker is, you sit here and you hear about all these people who are, retiring at the age of 30, and a lot of them, they're not driving a car like this, right? I love this car. I enjoy this. They're not driving a car like this. Instead of driving a car like this, they're out there, living off of ramen noodles and wearing the same clothes every day, right? I've watched the podcast. I've got some good information out there. I'm not going to downplay any of them. That's a lifestyle choice you have. You probably can retire easily at the age of 25 if you're willing to, live that lifestyle, and that lifestyle makes you happy. For me, that's not what I want. This is the lifestyle I enjoy, and guess what? I'm retired now, and I love it. So, but you know what? You can probably barely hear me, and that's the problem with this car. The problem with this car is, just like we were discussing earlier, I told you once before, I said, hey, we can drive the Ferrari, but you can't hear a thing over it, right? You can't hear a thing over this. So we're going to have to switch back to the other car, but once again, I figured I had to do at least one episode here. So we're going to talk today about retiring early, right? Don't retire early, retire now. All right, we're back here in the Hyundai Sonata. A little more what you're used to. But we're talking about retiring early, right? Retiring early. I mean, the idea of retiring early is so exciting for a lot of people. I've heard so many people mention that they want to retire early, or they wish they could retire early, but they don't know how that's possible. And, it seems to be a real common conversation. There's all these blogs and all these books written by people who are talking about, retiring early. Hey, I retired in the 20s. I retired in the 30s. And the funny thing about a lot of these blogs that these people are talking about how they retired in the 20s and 30s is their blog or their podcast or whatnot is now paying more than most people are making in their salaries. So, they talk about being retired in their 20s, but really they've got some podcast or some blog that's making them enough money that, you could argue that they're not retired right now. And there's been a lot of, different articles I've read, and you've probably seen them. There's the article heading was, a 28-year-old builds up $250,000 in savings and plans to retire by 38. Yes, that person can retire at 38. And a day in the life of the self-made millionaire who retired early, and how this woman retired at the age of 43, or actually 32. Sorry, 32. How this woman retired at 32. And it seems like everybody is talking about the idea of retiring early, and frankly, I find retiring early silly. All right, I said it. I find it silly. I don't want the lives of any of these people that we're talking about here. This isn't what I would call a good future. Why would you retire early when you can retire now, right? Right? Who cares about retiring early? Let's retire now. Retire now. Start retirement now. Now. Retire. Why aren't you retired? Right? Why aren't you going to retire? So the question is, why do you want to retire early but you can't retire now? Right? And that, if that sounds silly, I want you to think about it for a minute. I want you to answer the question of why do you want to retire early? Right? Why? Why do you want to retire early? Ask yourself that. Make sure you can define why you actually want to retire early and what you plan on doing with that retirement once you have it. And it's funny because, the first step of retiring really is figuring out what you're going to do with retirement. What does retirement mean to you? I mean, if you want to sit on your butt on TV all day watching TV, and you just want to sit there and watch TV all day, that's what your dream of retirement is. You're like, you know what? When I retire, I'm going to sit there and do nothing all day, every day. Then I've got to ask, why do you need to save up $1 million to do that? You could probably do that right now, right? I mean, you can probably go get an apartment for, $100 a month where you're just renting a bedroom in somebody's house, and you can probably get part of the gig economy and work for 2 hours a week doing something silly, or go pick up somebody's trash in their yard. I don't know, do something real simple, real silly, and sit there and watch TV for 23 hours a day. You could do that right now, right? Now, I hope you're starting to think that's not what I want to do. I don't want to sit on my rear end watching TV all day. I want more. And if you want more, then you've got to sit there and actually take the time to ask the question, what do you want in retirement, right? Because I'll tell you right now, if you want to drive Lamborghinis and Ferraris and have beach houses, then putting $1.25 million in a account isn't going to let you retire. You're not going to be able to do that. If you're 32 or 52, you're not going to be able to do that on $1.25 million. You're going to need what, 10 million? $15 million? So if that's what your dream of retirement is, then you've got to get to these higher targets, these higher goals than just this, blanket idea of $1 million, right? And that's kind of the challenge. You've got to really define what retirement means to you. Because when you read these articles about the 28-year-old who wants to retire at 37, or the self-made millionaire who retired early, okay, great for them. But they saved, by the time they're 35, they save $1 million, and then they say, oh, look at me, I can now be retired, yay! But how can you afford to be retired on just $1 million? You know what they're doing? If they're following the 3% rule, then that's about $37,000 a year that they can spend, right? Now, $37,000 is good. Nothing wrong with that. But of course, they got to deal with taxes. So it's what, $25,000 after taxes? So they got $25,000 a year to spend. And, you can live a fine life on $25,000. I don't want to say you can't, but you've got to recognize that if that's your goal, then you've got to sit there and say, I'm 100% happy on $25,000 a year, right? I want to live in a small house and eat normal meals and be frugal my entire life. And that's kind of the kickers. A lot of these people who end up being the retire early type, the way they do it is through frugality. And if you read their blogs and you watch their videos, it's frugality, frugality, frugality. And the funny thing is, they're living this super frugal life, which I don't want to live a frugal life, right? I want to drive a Ferrari. I want to have a motorcycle. I want to have an RV, which I do, I want to have all these things because this is the kind of stuff I enjoy. I want to go on a nice vacation. I want to eat out dinner, I don't want to live a super frugal life. And we'll talk about it later, but frugality is a tool, it's a tool just like all these other things are tools. It's going to be a tool to help you get towards your dreams. But for me, frugality is not a dream, right? I think frugality is great. I'm a very frugal person. And, I'm a frugal person, but there's a lot of things in my life that I value and I would like to spend more money on. And I know by using the tool frugality right now, it's going to help me spend more money on the things that are important to me in the future. Right? So I view frugality as, I'll always be somewhat frugal, but I'll spend on more things that are important to me later in life. Right? Right now, the Ferrari was important to me, so I spent the money on it. But I'm driving a Hyundai Sonata because it doesn't make sense to me to go spend another $30,000 for a Cadillac or a BMW when this car is awesome and it does everything I want and I'm 100% happy with it. Right? I don't value anything different for a daily driver. But for a fun sports car on the weekend, yes, I enjoy the Ferrari. And honestly, I would like a whole garage full of cars that I love because I'm passionate about it, right? That's my area of passion. What's your area of passion? Honestly, if your area of passion is frugality, then retiring at 30 with $1 million could be right up your alley. That could meet all your life goals. Or, if your favorite things to do are to go hiking, and you sit there and say, look, I could spend my entire life living in a tiny apartment and eating ramen noodles, but I'm going to spend my days hiking. Fantastic. Again, maybe retiring with $1 million or less is going to let you live that dream. Or once again, maybe you want to sit in front of TV all day. And if that's the case, great. You can realize that. But again, you probably don't even need $500,000 saved up to do that. And so you really first need to define, what does retirement mean? Because when I talk to people about this idea of early retirement, they're picturing in their heads, trips to Aruba and driving a Lamborghini. And then their goal was to have $1 million. And I'm sitting there saying, did you think through this? Did you think through it? If you have $1 million, you can't drive a Lamborghini and go on trips to Aruba. Maybe one trip, right? Maybe you can take your one trip to Aruba. But if this is the goal that you have for retirement, then $1 million isn't going to do it for you, right? And we've been talking about, you get to that first $1 million, you can grow from there. $1 million is great. It's a great starting point. And you can live off of it, right? You can live the rest of your life off $1 million. The problem is, most of you aren't going to live the life you want off $1 million. And the kicker is, once you really define what retirement means to you, and you decide what you want to do, right? And you sit there and say, here's my future, here's my dreams and goals, then you can start living that life now. You don't have to wait 15 years for early retirement or 50 years for regular retirement, right? You can start living that life now. And that's what I want to talk about here, right? My definition of retirement has always been, retirement is when you stop doing what you have to do and you start doing what you want to do, right? Retirement is when you stop doing what you have to do and start doing what you want to do. So the question I really ask you is, again, you should sit down and literally write down, I'm not exaggerating, write down and spend a lot of time thinking about this, talk it over with your spouse and your friends. You need to discuss what retirement means to you and what life you want in retirement. Okay, first step. Right? Don't worry about money. You got to figure out what your retirement is. Then your next question is, how do I get there? How do I get this retirement life that I dream of? And it's very important that you go this way, because you could save up $10 million and still not be able to live your dream, or you can save up $1 million and not be able to live your dream, or you can save nothing and still live your dream, right? So what I urge you to do is right now, retire. Stop doing what you feel like you have to do and start doing what you want to do. So what do you want to do, right? That's a simple question. What do you want to do? I mean, if you want more time, if time's your problem, you sit there and say, look, I don't have enough time with my family. Start building passive cash flow, right? It doesn't take that much to build passive cash flow. I mean, I've seen plenty of opportunities out there, they're readily available. You can go buy them right now on the market, where you can literally spend as little as 5% down, and something that costs maybe $300,000 and generates $80,000 a year in income, right? If you put 5% down, that's $15,000. So you put $15,000 down, and you can generate, $2,000 a month, because you have to leave a little bit of money in for capital expenditures and maintenance, stuff like that. And you can, take $2,000 a month of passive income that you're barely doing too much work for, right? Money that's just flowing in each month. That can give you more time, right? Right now, you go buy that right now, and you can bring $2,000 in a month, starting next month, or in 2 months, however it takes for the loan to close, right? And then there you are, freeing up all your time, able to do what you want to do. Seriously, right? Why do you need $1.5 million to do it? Why can't you, if $2,000 is enough to live off of a month? We talked about $1.25 million being the equivalent of $37,000, right? $37,500, following 3% rule. So, $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year. That's a little less, right? But then do two of them, right? So you have $4,000 a month. So then you got $50,000 a year. Now you're actually making more money that way than you would have been doing waiting 10 years or 15 years to get $1 million and following the 3% rule, right? So again, if free time is the thing for you and you're like, hey, I don't want to do anything, I just want more free time, buy a passive income opportunity. You can probably afford it right now if you wanted to. $15,000. If you don't have $15,000, maybe it's time to sell your car. Maybe it's time to get a second mortgage in your house. Maybe it's time to pick up a second job for 6 months until you have the $15,000 to go buy the passive income opportunity, right? There's so many things you can do to pick up that kind of passive income opportunity right now, and that's buying something off the shelf. You can build something yourself a lot cheaper. That's just one opportunity that I've recently seen, and they're not that hard to find, right? They're readily available on like business sale websites. It's just about finding them and taking the time to look. So again, if you want time, buy rentals or buy some of these passive businesses. There's tons of them out there. Tons of them out there. You might have to learn a little bit. You put a little bit of work in up front, but realistically, then you're generating a bunch of money without having to invest a ton of time. That's what you're looking for, right? If time is important to you in retirement, you can nail that. What if you want more money? What if you're sitting there saying, hey, I want to drive Lamborghinis and I want Ferraris and I want I want a big mansion, and I want to live on a beach, and I want to go on crazy, awesome trips all the time, right? This is realistic, right? Don't tell yourself it's not realistic, but how do you get there? Again, getting $1.25 million in your bank in 15 years ain't going to cut it. It's not going to do it. You're not going to be able to live that life. So you need to realize that now, that that's not the life you're going to be able to live, and figure out how to live that life. And how are you going to do that? Well, you better start, pick up some extra skills so you can get a better job, or start your own business. Tons of people start businesses on the side, I kind of laugh. I talk about my primary employment. I have a 9-to-5 job, and actually it's more than 9 to 5. I work quite a bit later than 5, and I go in before 9, and I often put work in way after hours. I wouldn't call it 9 to 5, but still, even within all this work that I'm putting in, I still have time to run multiple businesses on the side, and it doesn't impact my main job at all, right? That career has, nobody there even realizes it except for the officers of the company, and that's because I disclose it to them, right? And make sure there's no conflict of interest or anything. I make sure they know the other business I'm involved with, but it doesn't create any conflicts. It doesn't create any problems, and I have time to do it. So you can do that too. If you want to become incredibly wealthy, if you want to be sitting on, your 10, 20, 30, $100 million, $1 billion, then get started on another company, because that's probably what you're going to need to do to realize those kind of goals, and to get that money that you want to live that retirement lifestyle. So again, if you would have gone just the frugal route, you wouldn't get there. You couldn't retire at 30 in that path. And that's the sad thing about it. All these people looking at, hey, this guy retired at 30, but they didn't take the time to ask what retirement is. And I literally read their blogs. I'm like, hey, I have 5 pairs of clothes. I don't want to live off of 5 pairs of clothes. Fine, you can do that. If you want 5 pairs of clothes and you want ramen noodles every day, fine. Live that life. I've got no qualms. I have a friend who loves to hike, right? And has never had like a normal job because they just need enough money to pay for, bare minimum food and clothes. And they spend their time hiking and they don't even have a house, right? Fine. More power to them. I don't look down on them for that. That's great. But that's what's important to him. That's retirement for him. But you can't assume that that should be retirement for you. You've got to decide and take your time, right? And it's difficult. You need to take the time to dream and think and plan. And it's easy to sit there and just assume, retirement is this arbitrary concept. But you've got to define retirement, and then you've got to start getting ready for retirement now. Again, if you want millions of dollars, frankly, you might not be able to see that all tomorrow, but you can start working towards it tomorrow, right? And you can start making some serious headway, because if you don't start tomorrow and you don't start today, then you're never going to get there. And that's the ugly truth of it. Even if you sock away $1 million and live frugally. If you sit there and say you dread going to work, and you say, I want to do something more value. I hear people say, I dream of retirement because I want to volunteer and help people. Well, if you don't feel like you're helping people in your current job, what the heck are you doing there? Honestly, right? What the heck are you doing there? Why don't you go get another job? You can do that. You can get a job that rewards you. So if you feel like your job's awful and unrewarding, and your dream of retirement is you want to save up your $2 million or $10 million or $1 million, you want to save that up because you want to go volunteer, then maybe you should start volunteering now. Right? Either get a job working for a volunteer organization. Yeah, you're going to make less money, but who cares? You're doing what you love. You're retired now. You're doing what you want to do now. You're not waiting 10 years. You're doing it now. Or if it's something that's really volunteer-based and time-intensive, then maybe you're going to have to go set up what we talked about earlier, set up that passive income source, and then volunteer 40, 50 hours a week. Do it now, right? Do it now. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the idea that you should be able to retire now. There's no reason you can't retire right now. So all these people talk about, hey, retire 15 years early. What are you talking about? Retire right this minute. Retire now. Plan on retiring this year. I don't understand why you'd work for another 10 or 15 years to get retirement when it's so easy to retire right this minute, right? Again, these retirees are doing typically what you call following the 3% rule. I know a lot of retirees who use a 4% rule, but if you're retiring early, which means you're planning on living off your savings for 40 years, then you really need to follow the 3% rule. The 3% rule means you live off of 3% of your savings, essentially, right? So you take whatever your investment portfolio is, you're going to have your money in stocks or bonds or something similar, and then you're going to spend 3% of those each year, and in doing so, you should have enough money to live your entire life. So again, if you have $1.25 million, you follow the 3% rule, that means you're going to have $37,500 before taxes. Then you're going to pay taxes on that. And again, if you can live off of that, great, but you can also make that same amount of income through a passive investment source right now. You don't have to wait to have that savings to have, $3,000 a month. You can get there in a couple of years just by getting involved with a passive income source. Still give you similar free time, and again, give you similar cash flows each month. So you don't have to necessarily do that route. But again, many of you are going to look at that and say, I don't dream of $25,000 a year. That's not what I dream of at all. That's the equivalency of $2,000 a month. I want more than $2,000, $3,000 a month. It's not what I dream of. I dream of a lot more. And so I mean it. I think you should pause this video. I think you should take some time today or this weekend and really imagine retirement. You need to think what retirement could mean to you, and imagine and dream and plan and think of what that's going to be. And once you know exactly what it's going to be, then your goal is to make a plan to get there. And you might be surprised that you don't have to wait a long time to get that plan, right? Once you realize what retirement's about, then you have a bunch of tools at your disposal, right? So frugality is how a lot of these people retire early. Frugality is a great tool. Use it. I use it. You should use it. But that doesn't mean frugality has to be your end result, the only thing you live for. It's okay to want a Ferrari. It's okay to want nice dinners. It's okay to want a nice house. But don't kid yourself. You're not going to get yourself a Lamborghini and a 5,000 square foot mansion and a summer house on the beach off frugality alone. You're not going to get there. There's other tools at your disposal. There's hard work. Hard work is a tool. And maybe you don't want to do super hard work forever, but spend some time doing some hard work, work some extra hours, earn some extra money, invest it. Because you know what? Compound interest is another fantastic tool. You save some money now, and you'll be amazed at how much money that's worth in just a couple of years. And so the idea is, once again, work hard early and put money in compound interest in a compound interest bearing account or investments, and watch the magic happen and watch yourself get closer to some of those goals. Creativity is a tool that can be in your pocket. You can use creativity to retire early. Can you create a company doing what you love to do? Can you work for a company that does what you love to do? I own some dog daycare and boarding facilities, and I'll tell you right now, we had a lady who came from a high-paying engineering job and decided that she loved dogs. That was her dream, and working for the engineering company was too stressful. So instead of working for the engineering company, she decided to come join us as a dog daycare center, right? So she's working there for way less than she was getting paid before, but she said she was okay with it because she loved what she was doing. So why did she waste her time going to college and working that job for a few years instead of being creative and just taking the job that would have been living her dreams and her goals, right? She would have been super happy and, would have been making a perfectly, fine living income, spending her days playing with dogs, which is what she loved to do in her free time anyway, spending her days playing with dogs, right? What's more calming and relaxing and fun than that? So she could have been sitting there playing with dogs instead of doing a job she hated, being grinded out doing stuff she hated, and then coming home being miserable, hoping that she can play with her dogs. I mean, think about it, right? That's called being creative. And you can do that. Once you understand what your dreams are and your goals in retirement, then you can make it happen. You can make that impossible idea happen, and you can literally be living the retired dream now, right? Let's stop putting retirement off. Let's retire now. Start doing what you want to do, not what you have to do. Okay? And, entrepreneurship is another great tool at your disposal. Right? You can start something. If you can't find something that does what you want, start it. If you love working with people, start a business working with people. If you love cars, start a business with cars. If you love, figurines, start a business with figurines. I know a guy who loves wood bowls, so he started a business making wood bowls. Right? He's like, well, in my free time, I would carve wood bowls. So I decided to start carving them and selling them. He first started selling these wood bowls because he didn't know what to do with all the wood bowls he was making. Because literally, wood bowl making was his passion. He would spend his free time carving wood bowls. After he'd carved the wood bowls, he'd have the bowl there, and he wouldn't, he'd have so many of them in the house, he didn't know what to do anymore. He gave them away to everybody he knew. He was out of sources, so he started selling them. When he started selling them, people were buying them. He was making money, paying for his hobby, doing what he loved to do all day. So if you love wood bowls, make wood bowls and sell them. Seems pretty easy, right? If you love driving, there's jobs being a driver, delivery person, for example. If you love dogs, start a business about dogs. If you love cats, somebody started a cat cafe in Tip City, Ohio, right? I don't know if there's others in the country, but it's literally like a cat cafe with cats. Now, I still find it a little odd, but once again, if you love cats, start a cafe. If you love soap, make soap. If you love teaching, be a teacher, an online tutor. I mean, literally, figure out what you love to do. Work doesn't have to be miserable because, you've heard that quote before, but if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I've had people at the company that I work for suggest to me, they said, you know what, you make all this money and you have all these businesses and there's all this stuff. Why do you work here? Why do you come in here every day? And I'm like, why wouldn't I come in here? I love it. Like, I do the same thing at work that I would do in my free time, and I get paid for it. Like, the idea of getting paid to do stuff I love to do is kind of cool, And I love working with a team, and I love working with other people. I used to work on my own, and it gets lonely. I didn't enjoy working on my own. That's just not me. I don't enjoy working on my own, right? And so I consider myself retired. I have enough money set aside that I could live on my own if I wanted, right? You could call it financially free or whatnot. I could easily live without another paycheck in my life. But you know what? I want more money because I want to do cool stuff. I like Lamborghinis. I like Ferraris. I like nice houses. I like nice vacations. I like fun computers. I like cool technology. I enjoy this stuff. And I'd like more money to do it. And in addition to liking this stuff, I enjoy the stuff I do. I volunteer, and I love the volunteering I do. I work for an awesome company that I love working for. I solve problems. I love solving problems. And working for a big company means I get to solve big problems, right? How cool is it that I can come up with a solution to something and find out it's impacting millions of people? I mean, to me, that's awesome. If I come up with an entrepreneurial idea, it could take years to get that out to a million people. I work at a company where I come up with some new invention or new idea, and I can literally have it out to millions of people in 6 months. I mean, that's insane. When I talk to people and they tell me that they're using products that we create and work on and fix and stuff like that, and design aspects of, and they've used those tools themselves, and they're like, oh, it was so cool. I bought a car and I used this thing. And I'm like, yeah, we made that. I get that excitement and that pride of being part of the team that put that together, right? And I do a pretty good job at work. I won Employee of the Year awards there, and I've got to work with a great team. We've done some amazing things. I'm not going to take credit for it, but my point is, I'm valued by my employer. And, one of the reasons I think I am valued by my employer is because I don't live in fear of losing my job, right? I'm there because I love it. People tell me I'm passionate. I'm passionate about what I'm doing. That's why I'm there. I love what I'm doing. I'm passionate about what I'm doing. So if I love what I'm doing at work, why wouldn't I go to work and do it, right? If I love it. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy what I'm doing. And, so isn't that wonderful? But since I'm doing it because I love it, not because I have to, I can be better at it, because you know what? I can challenge a leader if I disagree with his perspective, or I can create a new idea, or I can, disagree with somebody without fear of reprisal. Because what are you going to do to me? Are you going to fire me? Okay, that stinks. You fired me. But I don't need the work, right? There's other things I can do. I have no problem doing other things without a problem, because, again, I really enjoy the company I work for. I enjoy the things that I'm doing, but there's other things that I'd be willing to do, and I'm sure I could find other places to do similar things that I love, so I don't have to live in fear. But the funny thing is, when you stop living in fear about your job, I know people who are literally tell me at work that they're afraid to submit a new idea because they don't want to get fired. And I'm like, why would you get fired for submitting a new idea, right? The worst thing someone's going to do is say no. So, they tell me they're afraid to submit ideas or to challenge something because they don't want to get fired. Now, that's not helping them or the company. So I'm a better employee by not being fearful. I make the product better because I'm not fearful. I make our customers' worlds better because I'm not fearful. I make, everything we do better because I'm not fearful. And I'm not fearful because, once again, I'm doing something I love because I love it, right? And once again, I don't want to get fired, but I'm doing it because I love it. I'm not doing it because I need a paycheck. I'm doing it because I love it. And so, if you really sit there and take a minute and say, okay, why do I want to retire? And you accept that retirement is when you do what you want to do instead of what you have to do, then there's no reason to be fearful. You're going to be better at everything you do. You're going to enjoy everything you do. Your life's going to be better, right? You can start realizing those dreams and goals today. So stop this idea of early retirement, because you know what? You might read about a lot of people that retire and they die a few years later because they no longer have purpose, and that people who have purpose live longer. And you need to have purpose. So you should figure out what your purpose is and start living your purpose now, right? You should start living your dreams, living your goals, figure out what they are, and make them happen today. And again, if the place that you're working isn't a place that you are happy, then find another place. And if if the place you're working isn't a place you enjoy, then find another place that you work. If you aren't going to realize your goal with your current path, then find a new path. If you want to do nothing, do nothing. If you want to make more money, make sure you get on a path to make more money. If you want more time, go get some passive income that gives you more time, right? These are all possibilities. All right? So thanks for listening today. I want to remind you what I mentioned earlier, which is that this is episode 30, which is a really exciting mile marker for us. Our game plan was to put up 30 cool videos that would be helpful, that cover a whole broad area. And then after those 30 videos that cover broad areas, then we were going to hit some deeper stuff. We're going to spend a little more time getting some deeper stuff built out. And then I'm hoping around episode 50, then we'll get back to doing them monthly. So as you want, I think you guys are going to love some of these deep dive stuff, because we can really get deeper in topics. I don't want to just be somebody that talks about surface stuff. I want to get into the meat. I am a college professor, and in using that, being a college professor means, I want to get into the deep stuff and be really educational and helpful. So we'll get there. But in the meantime, I don't want you guys thinking about retiring early. And the reason I don't want you to think about retiring early is because I want you to retire now. Okay? So the minute you get done with this, I want you to go figure out what retirement means to you, and then put a plan together to figure out how to make it happen right now. All right? And other people are going to say that's impossible, but that's what we're talking about. So go out there and make the impossible happen.
Learn more at MillionaireWho.com.
It's the morning drive.
So I just went to a gas station, and a guy stopped over, and he said, "Man, you're living the dream. What do you do?" And I said, "What do you mean, what do I do?" It's like, "What do you do? You're obviously super successful. What'd you do to make it happen?" And I just said, "I made the impossible happen." And that's the funny thing about it is, I don't do anything special. I've never even earned an above average salary. So anything I've done, you can do. All right. So go make it happen.